He only wanted to serve a meal, just another ordinary shift at the diner. But one small act of kindness, something so simple, so human, was about to shatter the fragile walls of prejudice surrounding him. What began as a quiet moment between a waitress and a child soon spiraled into something far greater, something that would force a powerful man to confront the truth he had buried for years. Was it fate, or was it the courage of a woman society tried to ignore? What happened next would leave an entire room speechless and change a life forever. She wasn't wealthy, she wasn't famous, just a young black waitress working long hours at a small-town diner. Every day was the same, balancing plates, forcing smiles for customers who rarely looked her in the eye, and saving every tip to support her younger brother at home. To most, she was invisible, another face in the background of their busy lives. But that night, the routine would break. In the corner booth sat a man whose presence carried power, money, and influence far beyond her world. And sitting beside him, a boy who seemed fragile, weighed down by a struggle few could see. What she didn't know was that her smallest action, one born from pure compassion, would place her at the center of a story that no one in that room would ever forget. The diner buzzed with its usual rhythm. Clinking silverware, murmured conversations, the smell of coffee that never quite faded. She moved quickly between tables, balancing plates with a grace that came from years of practice. But in truth, every shift felt like a battlefield. Whispers trailed behind her, eyes rolled when she passed, and sometimes customers refused to let her touch their plates. It was subtle, quiet, but cutting all the same. And she had learned to swallow it, to keep moving, because speaking up meant losing the job that kept her family afloat. That night, however, the tension felt sharper. The wealthy man in the corner watched her every move, not with gratitude, not with kindness, but with an almost unspoken judgment. His tailored suit, his polished shoes, his quiet authority, all of it reminded her that people like him didn't see people like her. They saw the help, nothing more. And yet, sitting beside him was his son, a boy who struggled to move his limbs, his eyes searching the room as if longing for something outside the weight of expectation. When she set down their plates, the boy smiled at her. It wasn't the forced smile she had grown used to, but a genuine one, soft, curious, grateful. For a moment, it disarmed her. She leaned down, whispering encouragement, and then, without thinking, she guided his small hand, helping him trace a simple rhythm on the table. A tap, a pause, another tap. A rhythm that resembled a dance step his body couldn't master alone. His face lit up, joy sparking in his eyes, as if he had just been given wings. But across the table, the father stiffened. His jaw tightened, his gaze cold, as if this innocent gesture was an offense. To him, it wasn't just a moment of kindness, it was a boundary crossed. His son, a reflection of his legacy, being touched, guided by someone he believed stood beneath them. The room seemed to freeze, conversations dulled, and the air thickened with unspoken judgment. A few customers glanced over, some smirking, others shaking their heads. She felt it, the weight of being watched, of being silently accused of overstepping her place. For a heartbeat, she wondered if she had made a mistake. And then came the first blow, not physical, but sharp enough to wound. The father's voice cut through the diner, low but heavy with disdain, a sound that made nearby tables turn. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. In that moment, she was no longer just a waitress, she was a target. Still, the boy's laughter lingered, innocent and pure, unaware of the storm brewing above him. She wanted to step back, to apologize, to disappear into the safety of the kitchen. But deep down, something told her this night wasn't going to let her hide. Because what was about to unfold wouldn't just test her patience, it would test her dignity, her courage, and the fragile hope that compassion could survive in a world so quick to crush it. The sound of silverware clattering against plates stopped. Every eye in the diner turned as the father rose slowly from his seat, his shadow stretching long across the floor. His face was a mask of restrained fury, but his words cut sharper than any blade. He demanded to know what gave her the right, how someone like her could dare place her hands on his son. Each syllable dripped with contempt, tearing through the fragile silence of the room. She froze, the tray trembling. Her instinct told her to retreat, to apologize, to shrink until she disappeared. But the boy's wide, frightened eyes anchored her. He had only just tasted the joy of being seen, of being free from the weight of his limitations. And now that joy was being snatched away, not by his body, but by the prejudice of his own father. Murmurs echoed through the crowd. Some shifted uncomfortably, others stared down at their plates, unwilling to intervene. The sting of isolation burned in her chest. She was alone, outnumbered, and yet something inside refused to bend. She hadn't done anything wrong. She had shown kindness, compassion, humanity. Was that a crime? The father's voice grew louder, demanding the manager, demanding her removal, as though she were dirt contaminating his carefully curated world. She felt her future hanging by a thread, her job, her livelihood, her dignity, ready to be severed in an instant. And yet, in the middle of his tirade, the boy did something no one expected. He reached for her hand again. Shaky, unsteady, but determined. His small fingers clutched hers, refusing to let go, as if declaring to the room that he chose her kindness over his father's cruelty. Gasps echoed through the diner. The father's face drained of color, his authority crumbling beneath the weight of his own child's silent rebellion. In that moment, the world held its breath. Would compassion win, or would power crush it, like it always has? The silence that followed was unbearable. The boy's hand in hers was small, fragile, yet it carried a defiance that no one in that room could ignore. The father, so used to commanding respect with wealth and status, found himself powerless against the quiet truth of his own child's choice. His words faltered, his anger exposed for what it truly was, not strength, prejudice, and pride. The manager hesitated, torn between loyalty to a paying customer and the undeniable humanity unfolding before him. And for once, he chose not to act. The waitress, still trembling, realized she hadn't lost everything. Her dignity remained intact, carried in the unwavering grip of a boy who refused to let go. That night, she walked home exhausted but unbroken. The memory of the confrontation would stay with her forever. The sting of humiliation, yes, but also the spark of courage. Because in a world that tried to make her invisible, she had been seen. Not by the powerful man who looked down on her, but by the child who looked up to her. But the truth is, her story isn't unique. It echoes across generations, across neighborhoods, across nations. It's the story of people forced to prove their worth, of compassion mistaken for insolence, of dignity constantly under attack. And while this one act of defiance brought light into a dark room, it doesn't erase the weight of a system built on inequality. The question remains, how many more voices will be silenced before compassion becomes the norm, not the exception? So the next time you witness injustice, ask yourself, will you stay silent at the table, or will you stand and refuse to look away?